Happy Lord's Day, one and all. Welcome to Church on Sunday with Brad and Chad. I'm Chad. Brad? Brad, are you there? What's going on? Excuse me, everybody who's new. Brad? Brad, are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm Brad.
Yes, Brad. I was just welcoming everyone to today's service.
So sorry about that one, Chad. I was just wondering whether or not I should bring my Bible.
You better. Everyone at Harbour brings their Bible to church.
Well, let's go through today's service, shall we?
Yes, the headlines. Please bear in mind that we filmed the headlines before we knew what the headlines actually were.
First off, we probably got a little welcome from our most beloved Roger Wyatt.
Then we'll be moving on to a mildly amusing compilation of Harbourites saying hello and or jumping into the sea.
Boom, straight into another talk from somebody or other.
Followed by worship. Will it be Hannah Thompson?
The Lions Tribe.
Or a brand new song from the Wyatt. The Wyatt family.
We genuinely have no idea.
Yeah, because... well, like we said, we filmed this before we knew how the service was going to go.
Moving on, we'll most likely have some well-wishing witty wisdom from some wise-cracking womad.
Closely followed by some wondrous, wacky, warming worship from a worshipy worshipper.
We'll be playing our favourite game.
Count those bridges! Rounded off with some nice long panning shots of nature.
A nice little hymn played on a solo instrument of some kind.
And some final remarks from Roger.
That sounds wonderful, sir.
Yes, indeedy, sir. Brad, one more thing before you go.
What's that, Chad?
How likely do you think it is we'll have a feature from one of Harbour's new babies this week?
I imagine that's quite a high probability there, Chad.
Wonderful stuff, Brad. Well, the Lord be with you.
And also with you. I'm Brad.
I'm Chad. Enjoy the service.
Hey Harbour, I'm just quarantining at my parents' house in Milton Keynes, and Rog just asked if I would say a few things following his message on Sunday. He kind of spoke about Nehemiah chapter 6 and the value of oh no, and like how we should be cautious about like isolating and stepping away from our community in this time, and how we need to root ourselves in the scripture because that's our greatest defence in times like this. And it was super full of hope, and so if you've not watched it, check it out. But my kind of thoughts surrounding it is kind of a bit about talking about the overarching theme of Nehemiah. He's basically a guy that gets called to lead the people of Israel in rebuilding a wall, and that's kind of the physical thing, but I think that God was definitely rebuilding his people and rebuilding the people of Israel to be vessels of his glory. And the whole book of Nehemiah is very enriching, and Nehemiah is an absolute dude. He totally understands and captures the vision of God. He totally is empathetic, and what breaks God's heart breaks his heart. And he's great with people. He's like super unifying and encouraging and inspiring, and just leads with such service and integrity. So firstly, you should just check him out because he's a dude. But I think I just wanted to touch on a few things. But mainly the thing I want to talk about is community and like God rebuilding his people. In like chapter 1, God calls Nehemiah to rebuild this wall, and Nehemiah like weeps and mourns that the wall is in such a state and the people of Israel are in such a state. And then there's like a 4-month period, and then he gets a conversation with the king. He has this conversation. King's like, yes, go rebuild the wall. And then he walks like 1,000 miles or something ridiculous to rebuild this wall, and that's like a whole other chunk of time. And then he's rebuilding this wall, and he at first it has a few people that he takes to start, and then it becomes this big family affair in chapter 3. Like everyone's getting involved, your brother, his wife, the kids, your uncle, his uncle, your grandson, like just everyone's in it. Everyone's getting involved in whatever capacity, and people are rebuilding different parts of the wall, and doing what they can to get stuck in and get involved. And there's just this beautiful picture of what the church should be, this amazing unifying moment of everyone getting involved. And then in chapter 5 it gets a bit divisive, and the people start exploiting each other, and the people of Israel no longer kind of are vibing, showing the glory of God, and they're all kind of fighting. And then chapter 6, then end of chapter 5, Nehemiah is like, guys, I've got to sort it out. And so they sort it out. Chapter 6, Nehemiah's prayer, give me strength against opposition. So, a couple of points I just want to draw from that. The main thing, about this whole thing of unity, and that it started with one person, and it started with him on his knees mourning and praying for an opportunity, but also just praying for what's going on in the world. And I just want to say, like, at the moment there's a heck of a lot going on in the world. There has been for a few years, but there's obviously, a global pandemic is pretty extreme, and I think a lot of us are like battling with with matching that up with what we know of God, and all of these kind of questions, and also just like getting on our knees and just praying for people we love, or people we know and people we don't know, and just physical health and mental health, and just praying that God shows up. And I just want to say, like, Nehemiah's first response is to get on his knees to mourn and then to give it to God. And I just say, like, that's such a great first response for our time now, is to get on our knees, to like acknowledge what's going on in the world, but to give it to God and know that it's in God's hands, and know that God is in all the high things and in all the great things as much as he is in all the crap. And just because we don't always feel him or see him in that, it doesn't mean that he's not there. And I just want to encourage you to, like, in your prayers this week, just start giving it to God, and just start praying with hope, and praying for like the next step. Nehemiah gets this vision. There's a time of mourning, and then there's a time of like waiting for what's next, and praying for this conversation that he has with the king. And I think like that's the next step, is us praying and looking forward to like how are we best used, and how are we best gonna serve in this next step, and what can we do, like what is God saying and asking of us now. And I think the whole unifying thing, epic. 65 churches joined in singing a blessing over the UK, and that represents such a small part of the UK. Like, there's heaps and heaps of people, and I read a statistic on Twitter from some like Christian survey thing, that basically 1 in 5 people who are tuning into online church aren't Christians or have no religious background, and that's epic. People are coming and turning to the Lord in times like this, and what an epic way to show who God is, and to be a place of comfort and safety for people, and that applies to not only the like wider context of the church, but also our individual lives. And we may feel lonely, but we know that we're not alone. And I guess in that, just that like that's something that we should be preaching and sharing to our friends, that like or showing, like, you're not alone. Like, if you need someone, I'm here. And like I don't know, there's just this beautiful overarching theme in Nehemiah, that God is not just rebuilding the wall, but he's rebuilding his people. And I kind of feel like that for us, and for the like national church and the global church, that there's been a lot of controversial issues over the last few years, and lots of political issues, and lots of divide in the church. But the thing that's pulling us all together is like right now is like praying for the world, and we're all in this, we're all on our knees praying for that together, and that's so strong and so powerful. And this underlying theme of like unity, and I do believe God's rebuilding his people, and like closing that divisiveness. And I'm encouraged that in time of such crisis and such pain, that God is still moving, and that people are finding Jesus, and are finding freedom, and are finding comfort in him. And that's the gospel, isn't it? Is that in our hardships, in our pain, we know that he loves us, and no matter what our life has looked like, it looks different now. And that's my prayer for for it being in this time, and for next, that people understand that where they've been and what's happened doesn't dissolve hope for what can happen and what will happen. And I guess just an encouraging word that you, that in this time you're not alone, and that we're all in this together, and the whole body of Christ is in this together, and the whole church is in this together, and we're in it, we're after the same vision, we're after Jesus. And I guess just like I guess my prayer for us this week is to be able to look a little bit more like Jesus and look a little bit more like Nehemiah, and understand that we're part of something bigger, we're part of a bigger vision. And my prayer is just praying over you guys for unity in your own lives, with relationships in your own lives, but definitely for the wider church, for unity for all of us, and that this is the power that brings people, that unity is at the heart of God and the Trinity. It's that we do it together. And I don't know, that's kind of my thoughts lately. But seriously, flick through Nehemiah, he's an epic dude. Thanks very much.
Psalm 121, a song of ascents. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. Psalm 130, a song of ascents. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. O Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to my cry for mercy. If you, O Lord, kept a record of sins, O Lord, who could stand? But with you there is forgiveness. Therefore you are feared. I wait for the Lord. My soul waits, and in his word I put my hope. My soul waits for the Lord, more than watchmen wait for the morning. More than watchmen wait for the morning. O Israel, put your hope in the Lord, for with the Lord is unfailing love, and with him is full redemption. He himself will redeem Israel from all their sins.
Hello, Harbour family. So nice to be with you again, virtually of course. I'm so looking forward to the day when I can come down and be a part of a little community and have fun and have coffee with you all and share stories about the last 6 months. I was asked if I would just share a little thought with a little passage, which is what I'm going to do. Obviously amidst this crazy time and this crazy pandemic, there's a lot of extra time, and for most of us we're experiencing a change in pace, which has probably been a little bit difficult for most of us. I'm sure I can resonate with some of you there. But yeah, I was given a verse before I left France, which I thought was really lovely, and thought that it would be a pillar for this next time coming home, and didn't quite realise how significant it would be as a result of COVID and all that has happened. So it is in Hebrews, and an interesting thing about Hebrews is that it's a book that's written to the Jewish people to remind them of the kind of the relationship that they were to have or had moved into having with God, and to kind of warn them that they were falling back into an Old Testament kind of relationship. And I thought it was really interesting looking at the last video that Roger did about covenant and how covenant is so important, and that we have such an invitation to be in this covenant of love and intimacy and friendship with the Lord, and within that there is a real emphasis on Sabbath. So all of Hebrews 4 talks about the Sabbath rest for the people of God, and verse 11, which is the one that we're going to hone in on a little bit, is the one that I'm going to read. I'm actually going to read from 9 till 11. So it says, "There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from his own work, just as God did from his. Let us therefore make every effort to enter the rest, so that no one will fall by following their example of disobedience." And just a few thoughts that came along with that for me. I think in the change of pace and in the the slowing down and stripping away of some of the things that we carry as normality and we think are normal, or we are normal to us, we have more time on our hands. And at the beginning it was really nice because we could all just have a little relax, and now that the kind of time frame of this is growing, it has caused a lot of us, I think, to feel a little bit unsettled and unsure on how to keep going and how to kind of keep momentum up. And I think one of the really important things to do in this time is to really engage with resting and resting well. And I think we think maybe we're good at this, but I don't think we are, because also our definition of Sabbath is to rest, but what does rest look like? And in a season of life where what we are actually allowed to do is very limited, what does it look like to find rest? And I think sometimes rest can be an active thing. So like some people find rest gardening or swimming or surfing or going for walks and just doing something. Some people like to just meditate and sit and read, and all of these things are good and helpful, but the biggest thing that it kind of hit me was that it says, make every effort to enter into the rest that the Lord has provided us with and has created for us. On the seventh day God rested and he looked over what he created, and he was filled with like joy and pleasure, and he said that it was good. And I think we so often can get so caught up with our lives and our schedules and our things, which are beautiful and are very much part of the circle of life and us getting on, but I think that we would do really well to be able to look back on this time in our lives and recognise how we were able to rest and really engage with what the Lord is doing and be able to come out stronger. I think this is a really interesting time for the church. This is a really interesting time for faith, for people. People around the world are being confronted with their beliefs, with the things that they put their value in, and where lots of people are kind of self-evaluating and reflecting, there is so much freedom and so much kind of openness. And I think the body of Christ needs this kind of time to really come into assurance of who God is, and who, you know, like understanding who God is, and yeah, believing that He is all the I am statements that He makes in the Bible, and resting in His presence to be refreshed so that we can respond to when things go back to normal. So yeah, so that's kind of my thought, my kind of process at the moment. What I'm looking at, what I'm thinking about is, how am I resting? What does that look like? How can I rest well? And what is God asking of me in this season? But yeah, there's a lot of perspective change, and there's a lot of openness to seeing what God is doing. And I think yeah, in just the slowing down and taking a bit more time, we have so much opportunity to encounter who God is, and recognize and see that He is faithful, and He is loving, and He's kind and gracious, and He is there for us, and He is the answer. He is the answer to our uncertainty. He is the answer to our worry, our anxieties, and yeah. So I guess oh dear. So I guess that's everything I had to say. I'm so excited to be able to see you again soon, and hope that will be sooner than they're predicting. That's enough.